In the shadows of justice, Judge Samira Hakim balances her gavel and faith while hiding wounds that never quite heal beneath her emerald silk hijab. Fairview Hills seems perfect until blue lights flash in her rearview mirror, transforming the respected federal judge into just another suspect, revealing that 25 years of power vanishes in 3 minutes of prejudice. Now, as the viral video spreads and powerful forces mobilize, Samira must choose between the black robe that defined her or a truth that could dismantle everything she's fought to build. Chapter 1. The Judge Samira Hakim had spent 25 years upholding justice from the bench, but it took Officer Brennan only 3 minutes to see her as just another Middle Eastern woman in a car. As the blue lights flashed in her rearview mirror just 2 blocks from her home, Samira pulled over carefully. She wasn't speeding, she'd signaled at every turn. She lowered her window and placed her hands visibly on the steering wheel, a habit born from experience. Officer Brennan approached. White, mid-30s, military haircut, mirrored sunglasses despite the dimming light. "License and registration," he demanded without greeting. "Of course," Samira replied in her measured courtroom voice. "May I ask what I'm being stopped for? You failed to signal back there." She was certain she had signaled. 25 years on the bench had taught her to notice details. "I believe I did signal, but I'll retrieve my documents." She handed over her license and registration, adding, "I'm Judge Samira Hakim. I serve on the federal bench. I'm just returning from delivering a lecture at Westbridge." He barely glanced at her ID before taking it back to his cruiser without acknowledgement. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. When he returned, his posture had changed, more rigid, aggressive. "Step out of the vehicle," he ordered. "Excuse me?" "Step out of the car now," he repeated, hand moving to his holster. "Officer, I don't understand. Is there a reason you're asking me to exit my vehicle? You're being uncooperative. Step out now." This wasn't about a turn signal. This was about something else entirely. "I've been fully cooperative, Officer Brennan. I've provided my identification, which clearly states I'm a federal judge." "Last warning," he said, hand still on his weapon. "Exit the vehicle or I'll remove you myself." Neighbors had begun to notice. A couple walking their dog paused across the street. A teenage boy had stopped, phone already recording. Slowly, Samira opened her door. Her black heels touched the pavement as she stood, keeping her hands visible. "Turn around," he ordered. She complied, feeling cold metal bite into her wrists as he secured the handcuffs. "This is ridiculous," she said, her judicial composure fraying. "I've done nothing wrong." "You're resisting arrest," Brennan stated. "Arrest? For what charge?" The teenage boy had moved closer, his phone still recording. "You okay, ma'am?" "Stay back," Brennan barked. "Please," Samira said to the boy, "just record. Don't intervene." Judge Samira Hakim, who had sentenced murderers, drug lords, and corrupt politicians, stood humiliated on a public sidewalk, watching her neighbors watch her. The indignity burned deeper than the handcuffs cutting into her wrists. Chapter 2. The escalation backup arrived 12 minutes later. Sergeant Diana Chen, a veteran officer in her late 40s, approached and assessed the situation with one sweep. Handcuffed woman in professional attire, agitated crowd, Officer Brennan with his hand near his weapon. "What's the situation?" Chen asked. Subject was uncooperative during a routine traffic stop. Chen glanced at Samira. "Your name, ma'am?" "Judge Samira Hakim, United States District Court, Eastern District," she replied evenly. "My identification is either with Officer Brennan or still in my vehicle." Chen's eyebrows rose. "You're a federal judge?" "Yes." I was attempting to explain that to Officer Brennan when he decided I was being uncooperative. Chen looked through Samira's car and found her judicial badge. "Officer Brennan, uncuff her. Now." "Sergeant, she was..." "Now, Brennan." As Brennan removed the handcuffs, Samira rubbed her wrists where the metal had dug into her skin. "Judge Hakim, I sincerely apologize for this incident," Chen said loudly. "This is not how the Fairview Police Department conducts itself." "And yet," Samira replied, equally audible, "here we are." Neighbors had gathered, offering support and expressing outrage. The teenage boy, Jamal Williams, kept his phone trained on the police cruisers. Captain David Harrison, the precinct commander, arrived and approached Samira. "Judge Hakim, we will be conducting a thorough..." "Save it, David," Samira cut him off. "We both know what happened here. Your officer saw a woman in a hijab and decided she was suspicious. Harrison's face remained professional, but she could see the calculation behind his eyes, the potential lawsuit, the community backlash. I'd like to invite you to come to the station to file a formal complaint, Harrison said. No, Samira stated firmly. I will not be filing a complaint with your department. I will be contacting the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division tomorrow morning. As she drove the final blocks home, Samira caught sight of her reflection in the rearview mirror. The composed facade was cracking. By morning, the video would be viral. By noon, reporters would be calling. By evening, this would no longer be just Samira Hakim's personal humiliation. It would be a national conversation. Chapter 3. The Aftermath. By dawn, Samira's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The first call had come from her daughter Layla, voice taut with worry. Mom, are you okay? There's a video going viral. Now Samira sat staring at her phone as it lit up with notifications. The video, captured by Jamal Williams, had gone viral overnight. 27 seconds of footage showing a hijab-wearing woman being handcuffed on a suburban sidewalk, her dignified posture a stark contrast to the officer's aggressive stance. 3 million views and climbing. Her colleague, Judge Martin Okonkwo, had texted, "Emergency meeting of the judges, 9:30 a.m." And then there were the media requests, dozens of them. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Al Jazeera, the New York Times, the Washington Post. 25 years on the bench had taught her to be measured, to weigh her words carefully. Going public would change everything, not just for her, but potentially for every case that came before her. Her doorbell rang. Her friend Rashida Khan with breakfast and moral support. Have you decided what you're going to do? I haven't slept enough to make that decision, Samira admitted. The mosque has already issued a statement supporting you. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Maya Patel from down the street, accompanied by several neighbors. We're organizing a community response, Maya explained. A rally at City Hall tonight. Her phone rang. Her clerk. Judge, the defendant in the police corruption trial? His attorney has already filed a motion questioning your impartiality based on last night's incident. After ending the call, she returned to find her living room transformed into a command center. Neighbors were making calls, drafting statements, coordinating responses. Another call came through, this one from the governor herself. Judge Hakim, I've directed the state attorney general to open an investigation into the Fairview Police Department. I appreciate that, Samira replied, but I'm concerned about politicizing what happened. This isn't about one officer or one department. It's about systemic issues. As a judge, she had always believed in the system's capacity for justice, even while acknowledging its flaws. But last night, standing handcuffed on that sidewalk, she had been outside the system, vulnerable, disbelieved, just another Muslim woman to be treated with suspicion. The system was waiting for her response. And for the first time in her long career, Samira wasn't sure she believed in that system anymore. Chapter 4. The Decision. Layla Hakim burst through the front door in the evening, her law school hoodie rumpled from the flight. I told you not to come, Samira said, embracing her daughter. And I told you I'm not great at following instructions, Layla replied. In the kitchen, away from neighbors and community organizers, Samira outlined her options. Stay silent and let institutions handle it. Speak about her personal experience while avoiding systemic critiques, or use this unwanted platform to address bigger issues, knowing it could affect her judicial career. You've spent your whole career believing you could change the system from the inside, Layla observed. You've played by their rules, but now you have a choice. If I speak too forcefully, I could lose my effectiveness on the bench, Samira said quietly. Maybe. Or maybe you'd gain a different kind of power. News broke that Officer Brennan had prior complaints of religious discrimination. All 3 had been dismissed after internal review. They're throwing him under the bus to protect the department, Layla observed. Needing air, Samira walked to the neighborhood park. There she encountered Jamal Williams, the teenager who'd filmed the incident. I wanted to apologize for posting that video without asking, he said. You have nothing to apologize for, Samira assured him. People keep asking me for interviews. I didn't know what to say. If you do speak, tell the truth as you saw it. What about you? He asked. Are you going to speak up? I'm still deciding. My grandmother says silence never protected anybody. With those words, something shifted inside Samira. She had spent her career working within the system, believing her presence on the bench was itself a kind of statement. But perhaps there were moments when presence wasn't enough. Back home, she gathered everyone in her living room. "Tomorrow morning, I will hold a press conference. I will speak not just as Judge Hakim, but as Samira, a Muslim American woman who experienced what too many others have experienced without the protection of a title." "What about your position on the bench?" Rashida asked. "Could there be consequences?" "Almost certainly," Samira acknowledged. "But I took an oath to uphold justice, not just to enforce the law." Chapter 5. The Statement. The morning dawned clear and bright. Samira stood before her bedroom mirror, adjusting her emerald green silk hijab. A deliberate choice. Green for growth, for renewal, for hope. At precisely 10 a.m., she stepped through the courthouse doors and faced the assembled press. 6 colleagues stood behind her in solidarity. "For 25 years, I have served as a federal judge," she began. "I have sentenced murderers, drug traffickers, corrupt officials. I have been entrusted with enormous power and have strived to wield it with wisdom." She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the crowd. 2 nights ago, none of that mattered. 2 nights ago, I was just another Muslim woman being ordered out of her car, being handcuffed on a public sidewalk, being treated as inherently suspicious despite my identification, despite my cooperation, despite my position. Her voice remained steady, neither rising in anger nor breaking with emotion. "I am not here to vilify an individual officer or a single police department. I am here because what happened to me happens to countless others who don't have the protection of a judicial robe, who don't have neighbors recording on their phones, who don't have the institutional power to ensure their complaints are heard." She continued with measured certainty. "There is a fundamental disconnect in our society. We can elevate individuals from marginalized communities to positions of authority. We can make them judges, professors, doctors, elected officials, and yet still treat them as other when they step outside the contexts that legitimize them." After her statement, she took 3 carefully selected questions, answering with judicial precision. As planned, she turned to leave, climbing the courthouse steps flanked by her colleagues and daughter. But at the top, she paused and turned back. In an unscripted moment that would be replayed on news programs for days, she raised her wrists, where faint marks from the tight handcuffs were still visible, and said simply, "Justice cannot be blind to injustice, especially when it wears a badge." Chapter 6. The Reckoning. 3 weeks later, Samira sat in her chambers when Officer Brennan arrived for their scheduled meeting. Not in uniform, but in civilian clothes that somehow made him look smaller, less certain. "I want to apologize," he said. "What I did that night was wrong." "May I ask what prompted this apology?" Samira asked. "My sister's been calling me every day since it happened. She converted to Islam 5 years ago. Wears hijab now. Has 2 kids. She kept asking how I'd feel if someone treated her the way I treated you." "And what did you tell her?" "That I'd want to kill the guy, but it took me a while to make the connection." "Do you know what the hardest part was for me?" Samira asked. "It wasn't the handcuffs or the humiliation. It was the realization that nothing I had accomplished, not my education, not my career, not 25 years on the federal bench, none of it mattered in that moment." Before she could continue, her phone buzzed with a text alerting her to turn on the news. Governor Watkins was announcing the establishment of a Commission on Equitable Policing, an independent oversight body to review training procedures and investigate complaints of bias. "I'm pleased to announce that Judge Samira Hakim has agreed to chair this commission upon completion of her current judicial term." Samira and Layla exchanged stunned looks. "It's a political solution," Layla observed. "She gets credit for addressing police bias, you get a soft landing, and the judiciary doesn't have to publicly censure one of its most respected members. And genuine reform might actually happen in the process." The governor's announcement was a clear signal. The ethics committee was likely to force Samira off the bench. Her statement had crossed a line that the system couldn't tolerate. But in that crossing, she had found a new purpose. "I think," she said finally, turning to her daughter, "that a judge is not the only thing I can be." "And what else can you be?" Samira smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes for the first time in weeks. "An advocate. A voice, a force for the change I've always believed in. When I was little, Layla reflected, I always thought the black robe made you powerful. I'm just now realizing how much more powerful you might be without it. Judge Hakim had spent 25 years upholding justice from the bench. Now Samira would pursue it from somewhere new, not as a neutral arbiter bound by precedent, but as a woman who had experienced injustice firsthand and was determined to transform that experience into meaningful change. The system that had failed her would now have to reckon with her voice outside its careful constraints, and that voice she knew would be impossible to silence. Enjoying our stories? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our upcoming content.